Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. And by the way, I'm going to give you a round of applause for that, because giving a demo that live, that's tough to do. So well done. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you at the Battle of the Band. How many of you have said Battles of the Bands today? I mean, I heard it a couple times in the hallway. Yeah, Battle of the Platforms. We are excited to be here. I'm Chad Jones, Vice President of Product Strategy with Xively. At Xively, we're really about building the infrastructure to simplify and accelerate creating connected products on whether you call it the Internet of Things, the Industrial Internet, or the Internet of Everything. Pick your marketing term du jour, if you will. We've all understood the opportunity on the Internet of Things, anywhere from a $1.2 trillion market to $14.4 trillion. I don't know, that's encroaching on the GDP of the US economy. So a quarter of that, I'll be happy with that. Either way, it's supposed to be very, very large. But I'm just gonna say it, the Internet of Things is irrelevant. Good night, remember always split aces and eights in blackjack? Okay, now before everybody gets up and says, wait a minute, you just said it was really important and someone kills me. What I really meant to say is that simply connecting things on the internet is not enough. Right? We do that today. We do that today with M2M. It's been doing it for years, and it's been doing some great stuff. But really, what's the difference with the Internet of Things? So, first of all, the trend is power to the people. Things are getting cheaper. They're getting more relevant or more available. You end up having these really expensive solutions that can now move down market. You've got to be able to make those available to everybody. You've got to create experiences with broad market appeal, not just a point solution. And you've got to be able to have unfettered product interaction to create a network effect, not just an intranet of things, but something that actually can freely connect without having to write code, so that I actually get that 1 + 1 = 1,000,000 type of exponential promise the Internet of Things has been telling us about. So let me use the example of a snow thrower. I live in Boston, we get a lot of snow. If I interconnect a snow thrower, so what? Big whoop. Right? I turn it on, I turn it off. I can actually see that I have, my spark plugs are firing at 700 degrees. The hell does that mean? I have no idea. So really, just internet connecting some piece of product is going to fail. Right? It doesn't have meaning. However, if we step back for a second and we rethink that, and actually say, well, what if we sell the experience of clean, safe driveways during winter? That gets to be interesting. Now, I'm still going to use an internet-connected snow thrower, right? But it's part of a larger ecosystem that brings meaning to the experience. So imagine if Lowe's or Home Depot or Sears took an internet-connected snow thrower and partnered or tied it in through a cloud system with a weather-based system that can tell me when a snowstorm's actually coming, and can tell me through their bunch of experts what the snow thrower's performance metrics actually mean. And of course, snow thrower experts wear lab coats and stethoscopes, of course, right? But combined with the power of mobile platforms, 2 days before a storm shows up, I can say, oh, look, the spark plugs are actually firing at 800 degrees. Now that has meaning. It sends me an alert and says, hey, you know what? Your snow thrower may not work because of this problem. Do you want to order a part? Do you want us to come out and fix it for you? So that it's guaranteed to work in 2 days so my family is safe because I can clean off my driveway. That changes the cooperative between the product, the consumer, and the actual vendor themselves. So now I can actually get in the halo effect with that. It's a much more powerful experience. Now, in order to get there, everybody has the same problem right now. You have to go through this enablement chain. I'm sure we've all seen this on this diagram on the internet enough times to be able to pick the right platform, program it, put it together with a smart object, pick the right network, and then do all of the back-end work, which is really complex, and then eventually turn around and sell that out. Well, as part of that, there's a lot of complexity inside of that. So right now what we find are people are building point solutions which are really intranets of things, not the Internet of Things that allows me to freely tie these things together for an exponential experience. So heterogeneity and complexity is the norm right now with all of the different platforms that are out there. Infrastructure today, building infrastructure limits innovation. If you actually understand how to make a great product that's going to change the world, a great object that's going to change the world, and the application to support that object, awesome. But then you have to do 70% of your time actually building infrastructure that has nothing to do with your innovation and spends most of that venture capital money that you go through so much pain to raise. So you've got to be able to have a better way to get there. It takes months to prototype. Global scale is very challenging. How many of you have tried IFTTT or heard of IFTTT? Did you try it 2 days ago when Amazon went down? Yeah, problematic, right? So simply using something like Amazon, as powerful it is, which is optimized just for generic hosting, isn't really going to get it done. Right? You have to build all of that stuff again. And then you're missing the network effect, missing the ability to actually freely tie these things together without having to code or have business relationship to get that next level of capability. This is what Xively Cloud Services has built its platform around these challenges, and we believe that we have cracked the code on solving these challenges. So we offer an infrastructure that's hosted as a cloud service. Now, the cloud service for us is a little bit different because we're a subsidiary of an established company known as LogMeIn. How many of you heard of LogMeIn, use remote access, rescue, things like that? Great. So we actually own our own brick and mortar data centers that we control the infrastructure down to the hardware level, as opposed just to the virtual container that you have in Amazon. We have a purpose-built platform for the Internet of Things that is fully redundant across these systems. We can lose multiple data centers, you wouldn't even feel it. Inside of that, we have libraries that actually span hundreds of platforms and allow you to very easily connect that into our message bus through any number of protocols, including MQTT, raw sockets, using a RESTful interface, and we will support XMPP coming up here pretty soon, because we want to be the Switzerland of infrastructure. You want to build something on Cisco's eventual XMPP, you want to use MQTT with IBM, great, have at it. We want everybody to connect together because it's the Internet of Things. Beyond that, we offer an object directory that allows these objects to be very easily discoverable, whether they're objects on our system or virtual objects that are coming from another cloud. We can put security metaphors and make them discoverable. We have time series databasing as well, so I can store the information that's relevant in a very scalable way, in a big data kind of way, because we understand how to do that. And then we have business services that allow you to do billing, reporting, and those types of services that tie it all together so that we act as that back-end middleware for everything you need to get your innovation going. Now, our developer workbench, which you see a screenshot of here, makes it very easy and visual to get into a secure communication path and see what's going on back and forth, so I can easily troubleshoot getting these connected objects up and working. And then there's a blue button in the upper right-hand corner. I simply click deploy, and I can scale to billions, because our infrastructure is built to handle that today. So, just some of the benefits and uniqueness that is Xively. So we support dozens of languages, hundreds of platforms, millions of gateways, and billions of smart devices today. Now, this is partly because of our heritage coming from LogMeIn, which that is what LogMeIn does. But the other part of this is because of our acquisitions of Patchbay through Cosm, that now is Xively. So now we've gone through for the last 3.5 years and have brought on all of these devices. Beyond that, we're a secure global cloud, again, that we host our own data centers. It is ours to optimize. Over the last 10 years, we have gotten to a point where we can get 1.5 million SSL connections on a single physical server, right? That's unheard of, right? That scalability is because we've put the time into that because we own that infrastructure. Excuse me. And again, this is optimized for the IoT. This is a view of our current device map. Now, LogMeIn as a whole supports over 255 million devices today, 55 million users, and 1 million users worldwide. I'm not going to stand up here and say, that's Xively, right? Because that's just not the case, right? Total transparency. We're about 480,000 devices right now sitting on Xively. Now, if you look at some of these, it's pretty interesting. If I were able to zoom in, you would see that all of Germany is defined by sensors. It's really interesting. London, the same way. New York, the same way. So we've had a very vast international presence with this in our deployment. Beyond that, we believe in a best-of-breed solution. So no one company can do it end-to-end. You simply cannot. If I promise analytics, are you going to compete with Wolfram, or compete with SPSS, Groundswell, companies that are billion-dollar companies that have spent years and years doing this type of analytics? No. You want to leverage that partnership to be able to get the best of both worlds, because we're talking about big data. You need big analytics to handle that. Platforms from the hardware side, literally supporting hundreds of them out there. Application platforms, wherever you want to write your application. One of those, actually, I was really happy to see with ThingWorks, they had a little Xively logo in there, right on. So I thought I'd return the favor. We got our ThingWorks logo up there as well. So we can interact between the two companies as well, and they can use our data also. And then we can hand out to companies like Zapier, Twilio, simply use an HTTP provider to tie in any other web service that you want to make a complete solution, with Xively being the glue that holds it together and brings that up very quickly and very simply. So if we go back and look at everyone's problem in the enablement chain, Xively can support about 60% of that. So if I think about it in venture capital pitch terms, which I come from a VC tech background, so I've been through enough pitch meetings to, surprised I don't have more gray hair. But the first slide ends up being, here's my object that changes the world. Second slide ends up being, here's the application that supports it. And instead of slide 3 through 9, that ends up being all of the infrastructure I have to build that's going to take 70% of Mr. VC's money, it ends up being one slide that simply says Xively, and takes care of all of the infrastructure and drops that cost by about 60%. Beyond that, we look at something that is really exciting that we call the Connected Object Cloud. So earlier we talked a little bit about the unfettered connection of different devices coming together without coding. The Connected Object Cloud is our way of defining that. So let's take a consumer example. There's a company that's making a baby jumper, baby jammies, if you will, that has an accelerometer and a respiration monitor on them. So mainly for SIDS issues. So if a baby falls over, it stops breathing for a certain amount of time, it ends up sending me a text or calling my phone. Well, you know what? If my kid's having an issue, don't text me, right? Turn on every fire alarm in the house, how about? Well, in order to do that, the baby jammy company is not going to make fire alarms. The fire alarm company is not going to make baby jammies, right? So in a normal solution, without Xively, the baby jammy company, business development person talks to the fire alarm company, they make a business relationship, their developers get together, API, security, they come out with a point solution that they market. Great. Well, you know what? If my fire alarms are going off at 3 in the morning because my baby's having an issue, I'd like to have the lights turn on, please, so I don't kill myself falling down the stairs while I'm running to the room. But again, I would have to turn around, make another business relationship, a three-way one this time, bring it together, and eventually have that come out. But instead with Xively, because the way the security parameters work around the channels of every device, I actually can secure at a very granular level all of the data and the control points for each and every device. Because eventually, that device comes up to one security place. So if I own the fire alarms, and I own the lights, and I own the baby jumper, they're all registered to my one security ID. So now I've got a clear chain of trust to all of them. So in Xively, all I need is IFTTT or a little macro, and simply says, if my baby stops breathing for more than 6 seconds or G-force is over 2G, something like that, turn on every fire alarm and turn on every light. And I haven't had to do any coding. And now if I want to tie in the next type of object to say, well, turn on all my outside lights now, I can easily do that and do it very quickly. That enables a network effect to happen. That is the Internet of Things, not just the intranets of things. And that is where this promise is really going. And we built a platform to enable that. So across our customer set, the experiences are kind of interesting. We talked about the baby jumper, the claw machine that pretty much takes money from your kids and doesn't give them the stupid plush toy, right? I don't want to speak ill of our customer, but those insidious people want to now take the gumball machine and tie it into the claw machine so that if you don't get the device, then the bubblegum machine lights up. They're like, oh, sweet, bubblegum, So now you end up having a cash tornado for your kids, effective, but interesting. It also allows them to do instant revenue recognition instead of a 90-day problem, because now as soon as that quarter or that dollar goes in, I can recognize that revenue. That solves a big problem. Turbid is actually doing stormwater reclamation. There's an IV company with intravenous infusion pumps where the electromechanical pump was actually failing and killing patients. They came up with a very simple pneumatic solution, replaced the pumps. And in clinical trials, using our platform, they went from 45 clinical trials, or 45 nursing incidences a week, to 0. Originally, they had slated 9 months to use an open source solution on Amazon to actually get that up and running. At week 10, they were pulling their hair out. They stumbled across us, 2 days. Their prototype was up in 2 days. Right? It's because we've taken out all of the complexity, all of the question marks of that internal infrastructure, and we just hand it to you. Focus on your innovation. We have a set of radon detectors that are for the homes, so I can do online and see if radon, odorless, colorless gas is in my home. And then we have industrial irrigation that's coming on, as well as gray water reclamation, all controlled through our system. So, that's it. I've left it exactly at 15 minutes. So, please, vote for Xively in the battle of the bands. But I'd like to thank you very much for your attention, and I'll open it up for questions.
First question is, what category would you like to be judged on?
Best overall, thank you. Humbly submitted. We're among good competition. Horizontal platform, actually, is where we best apply.
Okay. Other questions from the judges first? No? Open to the audience. Okay, so I got one.
Yes.
I understand how you're different from Amazon in terms of how hosting works, but tell me exactly how does it work on pricing models? Am I being charged per sensor, per process? What's the models of how I manage that?
Right, you're being charged per object, and it's a flat fee whether you use low, medium, or high transaction volume. So it's always predictable. So if you look at you understand what your model is, there's API limits that sit inside of it, and then if you say, okay, I'm gonna use a low, it's literally pennies per month. It ends up being about 12 cents per month per channel, per object. So very, very low cost. We didn't want to replace all of the infrastructure costs with, make it simple, but then charge an arm and a leg for it. We'll make our money on the back end with the annuity and all of that. There's more than enough pie to go around. But one of the most important things that I did leave out was that the data is yours. It's not ours. We're not going to Facebook you. We're not going to take it and resell it. It is yours to do what you want. If you want to sell it, more power to you, but that's not for us to do, right? It's yours, not ours.
Other questions? Okay, I'll ask one. Are you partnered with any wireless carriers in particular right now?
We're talking to a lot of them. The thing is that we can just work with them. So it's not like you have to have a partnership to work with us. The network layer is completely agnostic to us. So whether you're connecting through 2G, 3G, 4G, LTE, Wi-Fi, wired, or a white space, which is kind of interesting, it doesn't really matter to us. We can work with any of it.